Hi students, my name is Sanana and I am here to teach you the subject of social science. Today we will be learning the second chapter in history, the extension of British rule in India. So in the first chapter, the advent of Europeans to India, we studied how the Portuguese, Dutch, French and the English came to India by discovering new sea route. Then we studied how the French and the English fought in the land of India to establish their supremacy. We also saw how British won the battle of 3 Carnatic Wars and established their supremacy in the southern India. We also saw how they conquered Bengal through the battles of Plassey and Buxar. In this chapter, we would be looking at how the British is going to occupy the Maratha kingdom and the kingdom of the Sikhs. Let's go ahead and learn. So students, I always tell you all before we start learning a chapter, we must know what are all the topics that would be covered in the chapter. So in this chapter, we are going to learn about the wars that were fought between the English and the Marathas, known as the AngloMaratha Wars. And after this, how the British consolidated their power. Amongst the Indian kings, there was no succession rights for the adopted children. Because of this, the British came up with a policy called Doctrine of Lapse. We will be learning about that as well. We will be learning about another policy adopted by the British to annex a lot of Indian kingdoms called the Subsidiary Alliance. Lastly, we will learn about Anglo-Sikh Wars. Okay students, now let's begin learning the chapter. Through Carnatic Wars, the English made the other European countries not to challenge them in India. So the Portuguese have gone, the French have gone, the Dutch have gone, only the English is left. And of course, in different parts of India, different Indian rulers are ruling as kings. So this leaves English to now fight with the local rulers or the native Indian rulers. They gained complete political control over Bengal through which 2 wars? Through the Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar. By 1765, they had gained control almost all over the eastern part of India. So, if we notice, here is the Carnatic region which the British occupied through the Carnatic Wars. The eastern region through which they occupied by the Battle of Plassey and Buxar. Now, the entire Maratha kingdom the British is aiming to conquer. This is how the Indian map looked in 1765. Since the Marathas and Mysore states were dominant in southern and western part of India, the hold of British was restricted only to Bengal and to Bombay. Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan of Mysore along with the Peshwas of Marathas were the only obstruction or blockage or impediment in the path of the British to occupy or conquer the whole of India. There were others also like the Sikhs in the northwestern region of India. Ranjit Singh, he was a king, very popular king then. He emerged in the later part of the 19th century. He was a formidable, not a very challenging opponent to the British. He was successful in organizing the Sikhs. The British also waged repeated wars from the middle of the 18th century to the middle of the 19th century to expand their empire in India. Apart from this, they also annexed a lot of parts of India through 2 of their policies, Doctrine of Lapse and Subsidiary Alliance. We will discuss in detail what these policies are in the later part of this chapter. So, the British waged 3 Anglo-Maratha wars, 4 Anglo-Mysore wars and 2 Anglo-Sikh wars. in their process to extend their rule in India. Since the Anglo-Mysore Wars is discussed in Unit 4, here we will only be studying the Anglo-Maratha Wars and the Anglo-Sikh Wars. So, this is the region of Mysore, this is the Maratha region. We will see how the British conquered all of this. Let's begin with the Anglo-Maratha War. A quick review, what happened in the Battle of Buxar is very important before we come to learn Anglo-Maratha War. Shah Alam, the Mughal ruler, he opposed the British, that he fought against the British in the Battle of Buxar. But because they lost the battle, the British had put a fine on him and he had also given Diwani rights of Bengal to the British. But in the Anglo-Maratha War, let's see what is happening. Marathas instilled Shah Alam II. Now, Shah Alam II was made the Mughal emperor by the Marathas and they were given that respect by the Maratha kingdom. But if you remember, Shah Alam II was under the British. But because the Marathas gave Shah Alam II that faith of an emperor, he gave the Marathas two places, Kora and Allahabad. Because of this, the British was very upset. Then let's look at what happened. Peshwa Madhav Rao died. Because of this, his brother Narayan Rao became the king. But this Narayan Rao, who became the king, was opposed by his uncle Raghoba, and Raghoba killed Narayan Rao. So, Madhav Rao II was made the Peshwa. So, who became upset? Raghoba became upset. So, what happened? Madhav Rao died. So, Narayan Rao was made the king, but his uncle Raghoba killed him. And Madhav Rao too was then made the Peshwa. So, Raghoba was very upset and he went to the British saying, help me become the king. Now, within the family, two people are fighting to become the king. So, British took advantage of the situation and they waged a lot of wars. In the end, peace was made through the Treaty of Salbai. Now, let's look at first Anglo-Maratha War in detail. I hope you have got adequate background.